Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and Never Wrong Nick Bull.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, I'm your host, Never Wrong Nick Bull. We are, of course, powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. We wanted to put those guys over. Without them, this would not be possible. Of course, I'm Never Wrong Nick Bull. I'd be remiss if I did not introduce you to and mention he is my co-partner on the championship run we have for the For Frequency network as the tag champs. He's also my co-partner here in crime on the Card Subject to Change podcast. He is the one. He is the only. He is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing tonight?
Man, I feel good. You mentioned our monumental title reign. We have held those titles for 2.5 years now.
I know.
Kind of hard to believe.
I know, and we're defending them less than Roman Reigns did during his monumental run. So there's a little bit of heat on us right now, and understandably so. But plenty of other stuff to talk about tonight. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, we love having interviews on this show, and we thought on the road to WrestleMania, usually, you know, we have people on to review the big shows, and we felt this was a big show from the start, even after Royal Rumble. Like, something major is going to happen at the show. I don't think we could have called anything of the major that happened last night, but we had a feeling we want to get a guest on to talk about this show instead of just having two old heads like you and I chomp it back and forth. We wanted to get another expert opinion on this, so we booked this ahead of time, and I'm glad that we booked this person in particular because, you know, we love having wrestling fans on. We love talking wrestling, and what a moment for the ages last night in wrestling, which we'll talk on here briefly.
And of course, we're going to welcome in our guest. He is a good friend of the podcast. He is the head honcho of Central Empire Wrestling. Of course, I am talking about none other than Austin Bayliss. Austin, how you doing, my friend?
Man, guys, you said two old heads. We've got three old heads and then one young one. My son Bristol's joining us. He's excited. Are you ready for this? You got double trouble tonight. Two Bayliss boys ready to rock this. What a night. Thanks for having me. I know you invited me for the Rumble. My wife had a holiday party in late January, early February, whatever it was. So thanks for rescheduling with me. This is going to be my maiden voyage, our maiden voyage. So you guys steer the ship, and we can't wait to talk about last night's Elimination Chamber.
Oh, man, and what a night it was.
Before we break down the show and talk about how big of a moment that was last night, can we ask Austin Bayliss if that was your Elimination Chamber that they used for the match?
Oh, I wonder if we lost him. He went...
We did lose Austin. We did lose Austin momentarily. I think he's trying to come back on. We'll bring you back here. This is the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. I'm Never Wrong Nick Bull. He's the Wizard CZ, and we are going to be breaking down that night for you that happened last night, of course, at WWE Elimination Chamber in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We have Austin Bayliss of Central Empire Wrestling. We're back. We got connected back up here. Austin, I wanted to ask, was that your Elimination Chamber that they used for the match last night?
We were there in Toronto, the future 51st state, and I couldn't believe it. It was a beautiful sight. I was looking around, and then they were doing the anthem, and they were booing it, and then they were cheering theirs, and man, I was just excited to be there. What a night it was, you know. No, Definitely wasn't. I was in good old Wellman, Iowa, rural Iowa, watching it like you guys were. And man, it's always impressive, though, when they do these big arena shows, these big stadium shows. I went to the Elimination Chamber when it was in St. Louis, and it may or may not have been sold out, but we're talking 15, 16,000. Last night was what? Just shy of 40,000
Just shy of
wrestling
40.
fans.
Yep.
That's where the Toronto Blue Jays play. That is an indoor-outdoor baseball stadium. That's a baseball stadium show, is what that was. And amazing.
What a game changer in live events, this last 2 years. And I think SummerSlam this year is 2 days and Philadelphia or something. So, wow. Good time to be a wrestling fan. A lot of options. I really liked the show because 4 matches. I think less is more. You can definitely dedicate more to the stories. I'm a big fan of fewer matches, but longer stories. So yeah, I was kind of surprised when that lady was singing and they were booing the anthem. I mean, I wasn't necessarily based on the world, but I don't know. I just thought that's kind of sacred for everybody, and you kind of show your respect. So I thought right away, if that's how we're starting, this night is going to be a crazy one.
Oh, absolutely, and it definitely was. Where do we want to start? Because there's so many things we can talk about. Do we just want to rip the Band-Aid off and talk about the big moment first?
I think you got to.
I don't think there's a way around it.
Everybody's talking about it everywhere, right? I'll flat out ask you guys, is this the biggest heel turn in wrestling history? And I'll start with you, Austin. You're the guest. You've been around wrestling for a long time. You know how this stuff is run. You know how this stuff goes. You're a fan yourself. Is this the biggest heel turn that we have ever seen?
Well, I got to disappoint you guys a little and say that we go to bed early at the Bayliss house. So we actually went to bed before the main event. And,
okay. Hey, you're smarter than me. Okay. Because I went to bed way late.
I wish I would have stayed up for it because I remember being a younger guy watching these shows, and the end of the show was always the best. But I think you guys can admit too, to say that, as we've gotten older, it seems like the shows you can just watch them later and they're forgettable. This is a reminder of why you got to stay up late, why you've got to watch. I was laying down on my phone, and all of a sudden my Facebook started dinging and my phone started ringing, and you knew something had happened. You knew something major had happened. So I heard about it. I watched it a little bit. I was super excited, but I wanted to wait to watch it live with my son in the morning. So I get up, my wife's already seen it, and I'm super excited. I say, Briston, let's go watch it. We get it on the TV, and Briston says, my friend already texted me. You're not going to believe what happened. So it was
all that work you went through.
All that work. I guess, honestly, though, it's a really good lesson as a wrestling fan. Things are good right now. It's WrestleMania season. You don't go to bed early. Elimination Chamber, that's a big deal. I didn't know who was going to win. Frankly, when we were kind of looking at it, we weren't quite sure who all was in it. We haven't truly watched leading up to it. Mm-hmm. I figured Cena wouldn't win. I thought it was I can't wait. Seth Rollins, CM Punk. I think that's going to be phenomenal. But as far as the biggest heel turn, I think the most beautiful thing about this is I've been seeing he's been a babyface for 22 years. He's been a fan favorite for 22 years. And in that time when he was shoved down everybody's throats for so long, people were begging for it and begging for it and begging for it. And I think the timing, of course, I probably would have said 10 years ago the timing was right. But I think there's just something about right now that feels really special about it happening. The Rock is the man. WrestleMania season. I think it was huge. I wish that I was watching it live. I loved watching the replay. I did not like that goofy guy with him, though, that came out with The Rock, whatever
Travis
his name
Scott,
is.
the rapper, yes.
Yeah, I just felt like he took away from the moment moving around. I found myself watching him a little more than I wanted to. And I, celebrities, it's WrestleMania season, that happens. I kind of wish that he wasn't involved in it because I think it took away from the guys I'm more passionate about. I didn't even know his name, so my son did.
And I don't know anything about him. I knew that he was advertised for the show, and I seen his name when they flashed up. I don't know any of his music, so I know he's a big artist, though.
I loved the John Cena's face, that expression. Beautiful. I mean, you're going to remember that forever. It looks uncomfortable. It looks like, all right, stuff's about to hit the fan, and I like The Rock's belt. I like the date on it. I mean, there's just small things like that I think really speak volumes for the story that they're trying to tell, and it's not just a story that came together at the end of the show. It's a lifelong story. That's a 22-year story. It's incredible. And honestly, I hope, just as the fan in me and the business person, I hope he wins the championship and gets to the end of the year and says, "I'm not going anywhere." I mean, that's wrestling, so
do they pull? Maybe it won't. Do they pull the trigger on him to win the 17th as a heel?
Yep.
You think so?
I don't know, but I would. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. I'm asking, what would you do? I mean, you say you're booking this thing.
I love a good villain. I think I am most passionate about villains. God, I just love people being bad, love people being mean. I think that destroying that record of Flair of 16, making it 17 with an evil Cena, it's fresh, it's good. I think so. No disrespect to Flair. It's just, hey, the world goes on, times change, and we're ready to change it. Let's change it by making people mad.
Right. I mean, look at the 4 years that Roman held the belt and how mad people were. Even go back to WrestleMania 39, how upset everyone was that Cody did not take the belt off him then. But that was the right move. And this just felt right. You knew when they didn't have this in the middle of the show that something really big was going to happen, because you can play Monday morning or armchair booker all you want, but you got to look at the rundown of the show. You'd think a segment like this would probably be somewhere in the middle, unless there's something crazy that's going to happen, and this did not disappoint. I looked over at Nick afterwards, and I kind of had this feeling when Cody turned down The Rock and Cena started jumping around like a madman celebrating this. I'm like, Cena's turning. That was my first thought. I thought that Cody was going to attack Cena before the segment started. I thought Cody was going to take the deal. But then when Cena started celebrating the way he was, I'm like, oh, this is happening. And what a magical moment it was.
Isn't it amazing? I'm sure you're seeing similar things on your social media timelines. People are changing their profile photo to this. I mean, their wife's out the door. Evil Cena face is their new Facebook profile photo and that type of thing. I think that speaks volumes for how big this is on a wrestling fan.
It's an image that is going to be burned on every wrestling fan's memory. They're going to remember where they were when this happened. Hey, where were you at? Who were you watching the show with? What was your reaction when this went down? This was one of those things. And I think maybe this is one of those moments for a younger generation than the current room here that we have. This might be one of their first major wrestling memories that tie in with, the older generation, kind of believe, it shook the whole spectrum of wrestling fans last night, whether you're our age or the age below us that was watching this.
Wait until tomorrow.
Oh yeah. What's next?
Yeah. It's fresh. It's good. My son loves it. And he loves Cena because he hated Cena before, so it's a different vibe in our house for sure. I bought him a John Cena farewell shirt for Christmas and he doesn't like to wear it. Now I think he might wear it.
I mean, I don't even feel dirty for John Cena. And I don't think the fans do either. I think the shock is just maybe starting to wear off on most wrestling fans. There's probably going to be more to come as we record this on Sunday night, more to come tomorrow night on Raw and Netflix. Is there more that they can do, or is this a slow burn to Mania? What would you do next, Austin, in this situation after what we seen last night, how it all went down? What would you do on Monday night to further that?
what are we, 6 weeks away? Ish?
7. We're 7 weeks out.
7?
Yep.
I mean, they're not going to touch each other for a long time. They're going to slow burn it. Less is more.
I think simple things tomorrow night will go a long ways. If it were me, everybody wants to hear what he has to say, but I think people, will he have a new theme song? What will his entrance look like? What does this? I don't even know that they destroyed Cody. I don't even know that Cody needs to be there.
But I don't think he does. I don't think he does.
No.
Go ahead though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is
Cena's entrance. This is Cena's aura. This is less is more, because they're not going to tell you everything the first night. You're just going to get a little. I would slow burn it. You're going to see him arrive in the first half an hour, maybe in the car or backstage or something, and they're just going to drag it along for several hours. That would be what I would do. He's got to finish the show.
Let me ask this to both of you. I've seen this speculated online. Back at Bad Blood, The Rock came out, held up the 3 fingers. Some people say that was foreshadowing because Cena's got the 3 fingers, but when The Rock cut his throat, he held up 2 fingers. Is he adding one more person to the mix? Is there going to be one more person under The Rock's influence? Is this a countdown to what's next?
Yeah, I don't know. When you say under The Rock's influence, that kind of brings up a point that I wanted to bring up is, I think the fans, me, CZ, Mr. Bayliss here, among others, are, wondering what will Cena come out and say. And I think Cena's going to start to begin to possibly apologize. And then that's when The Rock comes out and says, no, I control you. You're my contender. You don't need to tell these people anything. Like, you start to see The Rock really put his grips in. Man, I don't know. This is going to be really interesting because we've never seen this from Cena. This is uncharted territory, right? We don't know how this is going to be navigated or how it's going to be accepted. The fans, I think, are going to be torn because there's a lot of Cena fans out there. Mm-hmm. And yeah, what he did was wrong in the eye of a true wrestling fan. He did it because he wants that title shot. He's that desperate because he knows his days are numbered. His time is numbered. This is his quote unquote retirement tour.
And this is his first win
in a long time, right?
Yeah.
Yes. On a major platform. Yes. You're right, Austin. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I would say
Cena shows up tomorrow night on Raw. Maybe you don't see him again for a couple of weeks. I would say Cody doesn't. Maybe you see him next week. I think WrestleMania might be a really big match, but I think you could really slow burn this, and the whole year is really special with big matches with Cena. I think he could go wherever. I think he could go to different brands and freshen that up, bring more exposure to that. No, it's all good. I think it's fantastic. Solid show from start to finish. I told you I like fewer matches and longer stories. Sometimes it's hard for me to set through a 3-hour show. I don't even know where we ended last night because we went to bed a little early, but 4 matches, 4 solid stories. I think everybody's got, I thought Liv Morgan did fantastic. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of her from today,
but she is beat up and destroyed.
I thought that Alexa Bliss, I thought maybe she would win. I don't know what's happening with her and what's happening with the Wyatt Six. I have no clue.
I don't know if somebody's hurt, if they're being held off TV for creative. I don't know. It's very weird how, man, they were in our face for a while, and for good reason. We were starting to get some explanation behind things and then gone. So it's hard to say.
Great seeing Trish Stratus. Always is great to see Trish Stratus.
I didn't know quite what to make of Tiffy Time. I guess the last time I kind of tuned in, she was she was evil. So seeing her with Trish, that was kind of fresh for me. I would say our family now is very casual. We're always around wrestling, so we may not hit the week to week everything, all the storylines like we used to, just because we're getting a dose of wrestling at every turn. But yeah, that Candice LeRae, she hasn't been featured for a while, has she? That was a
She-
pretty big spot for her.
It was
I
a very
don't
big spot
remember-
for her. Yes.
Outside of Takeover, Takeover, an NXT show, I don't think she has been on a main roster PLE since she got called up. I think
Well,
this is-
she might have been on. She might have been in the Rumble. I think she was in the Rumble.
okay. I'll give you that. But in a solo match or a tag match where she's featured, I think this is the first time. This is her main roster. Not, I don't want to say debut, but I think it's her first major appearance on a PLE.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
surprised to see women steal the first hour and a half of the show back to back with the Chamber and with that tag. Typically they kind of break it up, or I probably would have broke it up, but with the unsanctioned match, I get why they didn't. You probably want to save that for a little later. That Elimination Chamber, it looks different than when we were in St. Louis, but God, it's just so neat. It's just so amazing to see that structure.
Okay, so help me out here. As somebody that's
Just kind of tuned in and out. Jade Cargill came back last night.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
so what's happening there?
She was taken out by an unknown assailant several months back during her tag title run.
Backstage in the parking area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Naomi stepped in and took her place as the tag team champion. And there's been a lot of speculation. Oh, well, who attacked Jade? Who was it behind her attack? Who laid her out?
There's been a video clip revealed just recently, which tied into last night, where it's a wide shot and you see Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez walk into frame and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
So when you did see Jade Cargill come back last night, you saw what I thought was a great moment with Liv Morgan. Like, oh my God, it wasn't me. It wasn't us. It wasn't me. Liv Morgan, I think, was there when it happened, but did not do it.
Right.
And in seeing last night with Jade doing the 90-degree right there at the end and going after Naomi, we are led to believe that Naomi is now the one who did it.
I just want to.
But I don't think she's the one who did it.
I don't either. I want to give a shout out. Zach Takis, good friend. Watch, if you haven't watched it yet, Wrestling with Fitness. There's a cheap plug right there, but it says in the comments, we all know how safe WWE parking lots are. I mean, let's be fair. If you see someone out in the parking lot, they're gonna get hit with something.
Yeah, there's no security in that parking lot. You see him at
Bianca.
Target and you see him at Walmart. But what's that about Bianca?
Bianca, man, did you hear that snap when she was whipping people with that hair? Oh my goodness,
Man, that makes me cringe now. And I said it last night. I'd be like, I'd really have to like that person I was working with for them to do that to me.
that was Liv, right? I feel like the one that
Yes.
I remember was with Liv.
It was Liv. Yeah. And the comment was made last night in the group that I watched it with. And I have to agree, like, she's well on her way Hall of Fame already with the career she's had in the last year to year and a half. When Rhea got hurt and that whole story where her and Dom turned on her and then she joined the Judgment Day, like, I care more now about her than I've ever cared about her before. I think it's a tribute to her really stepping up and taking the opportunity and going with it. And, now she's a staple, to me, to be on TV every Monday night to see what she's up to next. Now that the tag champs, now that she, lost this match, what's next for her, but they've really done a good job. And you can tell they've invested time and push into Liv Morgan, and it's paying dividends for him, I think.
I think Dom being so good has helped her, and
It
her
has.
being so good has helped him. Perfect combo.
And I thought Dom was kind of a goofball. When he first showed up, I was not a fan. of early Dom. But last night it made me smile because when she did the Eddie Guerrero shoulders, I thought that was pretty cool. Her outfit kind of resembled a little bit of Dom's. I love the intricate details, the discipline to kind of stay on long-term story, because it's so easy to lose focus. Especially when you're producing so much TV, to kind of pay, hey, let's pay attention to what's happened previously.
Yep.
So no, that Eddie Guerrero thing made me smile.
She's so good. God, she's good. Love Rhea. I'm not a huge fan. What, Io Sky? That's
those are our options, right? So Charlotte and Tiffy. Yep. So she's Money in the Bank, right?
Yeah, she won the Money in the Bank, is now holding the title. Charlotte
and cashed it in on Nia.
Yeah,
her quote unquote friend at the time.
Yeah. And Nia seems to, we said
Candice LeRae doesn't show up very often. Nia seems to always show up. She's kind of always there. It was funny when so you guys will chuckle out of this, the old guys here. My son left, but when we were watching this last night, Trish comes out and my wife and I are just like, wow, she looks phenomenal. And my son says, God, Trish, put some clothes on.
And I told my son, I said, Briston, you need to go to your room. Get out of here.
And he goes, what? He goes, don't you know your wife is right there? And I said, she knows that Trish is beautiful, And God, what a beautiful woman. What a fantastic, 20-some years, 25 years, I think like 99, early 2000s, Trish came around. And the neat thing, I read yesterday where her kids were live watching her maybe for the first time. That's pretty sweet in person.
Yep.
What an icon. God, I'd love to have her at a Bridge City Slam, or love to have her anywhere,
She's tremendous. I met her a couple years back at the Waterloo Hall of Fame weekend. I don't know. Were you at that Hall of Fame weekend?
Yeah, we were there.
Yep. And
she was goes tremendous. So fast.
Yep.
It goes so fast. You get an opportunity to meet her, and there's 200 people ahead of you and 200 people behind you. I've met her over the years, and she's always the same. She's always a fantastic meet and greet. She's always a fantastic human being. So it was good to see her. I thought Candice in that tag match, I don't know, it's just me. I'm not a huge Candice LeRae fan. Maybe it's because I haven't seen her very much. But I really like in WWE right now. Matt Cardona's wife, Chelsea Green. God, she's so good. I
thought it was a missed opportunity for them last night. She's Canadian. I mean, they would have came out and just loved whatever she did.
Yeah, she is so good. To me, she's kind of like Dom in that role. I think she just nails it.
Yes.
I love watching Dom for what he does. I love the Chelsea Green Karen, so good. So I kind of would have liked to have seen her. It is what it is. We'll see her tomorrow. We'll see her down the road.
Yeah.
But no. What did you guys think of the women's chamber kicking it off?
I thought it was a good start. I enjoyed it, and the way that it started off with Jade coming out right at the beginning, taking out Naomi. I think part of me wanted to see someone replace Naomi in the match, and maybe this is where Chelsea Green would have had a chance to shine, come out and take the spotlight in her home country. But I understand why they didn't. But no, the women put on a tremendous match, and they always show out. I love that they get to highlight or be highlighted in these big time matches with the Rumble, with the Elimination Chamber, what have you. I wasn't disappointed at all, and I want to see what happens next. I'm anxious to see, because the way it ended when Bianca goes back, you had the stare down between her, Io, and Rhea. That was a moment right there that, I mean, I think there were several moments that were, what's the word I'm looking for? They weren't underwhelming, but I think the end of the night overshadowed them. There were such great moments like that end of the women's chamber where Rhea and Io come out and are right behind Bianca and they're all staring each other down. There are others. We'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, I think Jade coming out was.
What's the match? So what'd she do? Who'd she pick?
Io.
Well, tomorrow night on Raw, we get Rhea and Io.
Okay.
And the winner of that is who goes on to face Bianca.
Correct.
Oh, that's how they're figuring it out.
Yeah. That
right.
match, the match with Rhea and Io has been set up for weeks. It was set up that way from the start. So it wasn't like just added overnight. It was well ahead of time.
So Charlotte's involved?
No, Charlotte is on the other side of things. Charlotte
she's going to be facing Tiffany at WrestleMania.
Okay.
Do they turn this Women's World Championship match between Io or Bianca and whoever, whether it's Io, whether it's Rhea, do they turn it into a triple threat?
Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Io. I mean, she's all right. My wife and I were talking about that, and Kelsey's like, well, she's just so acrobatic. She does so many neat things, and I'm fine with that. Remind me, last year it was Bailey and Io Sky. Is that right?
At WrestleMania?
At Mania, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my son, when we were talking about this, he's like, God,
He didn't really care. He wasn't excited about that match. He wasn't really into it. I kind of have that vibe just about Io Sky in general. I don't know what it is. I think I know the garbage can spot's a pretty sweet spot, but to me, that's just what I think of her. I don't think about a heck of a lot more. I love Rhea. I think Rhea is fantastic. So I did like that ending. I did like the both champions. I don't know, just cosmetically, maybe I would have put maybe when the second one came out, when Io came out, maybe put her off to the right. So then the challenger, the winner, is in between both of them, and she kind of
has her back to one, and then she backs up, and then the other two.
I didn't necessarily like that, but I mean, that's such a small thing. Just maybe put the champions sandwiching her in, holding up the belt or something. But I mean, it's fine. I think that's a moment you talk about. That's a big one.
Let me ask you, and this is, since we're talking about the Elimination Chamber, I want to talk about the chamber itself. This may be me nitpicking. Nick and I talked about it last night with our group who was watching. In years past, they used to have lights flickering between the pods as to who would be released. This year, it was like a spinner thing, and I could barely see it. I didn't care for that. I think the lights are more prominent. They're easier to see. Like I said, this may be me nitpicking, but what do you guys think of the way they handled highlighting who was coming into the ring next?
I like that they're experimenting. I like that they're not afraid to change it up.
When you do that, when you experiment, sometimes people like it, sometimes people don't like it. You can always go back to what you know well, which is what they've always done. To me, it's just a symbol of the new era. We're trying new things. We're seeing how it's sticking. One thing I don't like the crooked entryway, where it
jogs off. It's not a straight line.
That's just a small weird thing. I don't think it hurts. It's just I'm so used to the straight entrance ramp. So the curved, or whatever you want to call it, entrance, I'm not a big fan. I don't hate it. It's fine. It'll work. But it's small little things like that I think kind of freshen up a product, which really, unless you try to make changes, unless you, even if it's not broke, if you just try to create something new, wrestling could look the same forever,
Right.
I wasn't a huge fan at first of the LED
corner post, and now it doesn't bother me. It's fine. I noticed last night on the hard cam side, I think they had an actual ring skirt and not the LED screen. I follow a manufacturer of ring steps, and he said they actually had two different styles of ring steps last night. One which they had used for the previous 20 years, and then that was the side closest to the entrance, and on the far side they had like their newer style. So
okay.
I mean,
small little stuff like that, but they're definitely tinkering. They're definitely trying to figure things out, and I think that's good. You know, I think freshen things up. We're definitely feeling it with the product. It feels good to be a wrestling fan. You feel like you missed out on something when you went to bed early and missed that 22-year turn that we waited for at the end of every show for so many years when he kept getting shoved down our throat. I hope he comes out with some new music that we hate even more than we hated before. I hope he comes out just, if we thought we had it bad for the last 22 years, we're not going to be able to stomach the next 8 months. I mean,
I hope it's kind of like The Rock's music. We get like a throwback at the beginning of his old, and then it kind of turns into what The Rock's music is, but maybe more suited for Cena. But him coming out they got to start the show with that, right? Or is that your main? Because I'm telling you, last night when I seen the men's chamber going on and the Cody Rock segment hasn't happened yet, I'm like, something major's got to happen if we're having a segment main event as opposed to a chamber match at Elimination Chamber. How did you feel on that? Should it have been flipped around knowing what we know now, or did they do it right? They put that as the main event over everything else that was going on the card.
oh yeah.
Oh, if people are comparing it to the NWO.
I think that is a very fair comparison. I think that's got to be the comparison for this. Yeah. Hulk Hogan was face for a long time, and Hogan did so much at a time when WWF was a little more vulnerable and not the force that they are now. Okay, said and done. I just think with Cena and his background, and he hasn't done it, and the whole Make-A-Wish thing, you never thought you'd see it happen. And when it does, it's like, oh man, there ain't no going back. They're doing it. And it was a ride, and it was so fun. And it's great to have moments like that. So my question to you was, when was the last time you felt this way in wrestling like you did after watching the Cena turn? When was that last big, for lack of a better terms, oh shit moment that happened that really kind of stuck with you like last night? Obviously will.
I wasn't watching when the NWO happened, so maybe this is the biggest moment in my fandom. I got into wrestling in late '99, so back then it was like Vince, higher power. It was Austin McMahon. I thought that was huge. I don't think Stone Cold turning heel at WrestleMania 17, I think, fell short of potential after the fact, but that was a big deal. That was an awkward deal. That was an unexpected. That was sad in Houston, when Stone Cold and Vince all of a sudden teamed up in 2001. I don't know that I would compare the two. I think last night hit so much differently. I think people were bummed when Stone Cold did it. I think people were ecstatic last night with Cena. Especially building it up to where he's lost, and you're just kind of like, all right, they're just milking it out for money. Now, those higher WrestleMania ticket prices don't sound so bad because you're going to get something fresh. You're not going to get babyface Cena saying goodbye to everybody. You're going to get whatever. We don't even know what we're going to get.
Right.
I know. It's exciting. We haven't ever had this thought process like, okay, it happened. Now what? Like we've never really sat back and dream booked or fantasy booked a John Cena heel run, and we're going to see this play out in real time. I mean, it's just an amazing time to be a wrestling fan.
I think when
I'm going to miss so many obvious moments probably, but I think of big moments that you'll never forget. I think of Owen Hart's passing. I think of Eddie's passing. I think of Chris's passing. I think of the Undertaker streak ending at WrestleMania. Probably Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement and him winning. Shawn Michaels and Flair at WrestleMania. I think this is big time. And the best part about that is Elimination Chamber is just a show. It's not one of the big four or the big five or the big three or however many big ones we have.
Right.
WrestleMania is coming up, and this is just a reminder of
you don't miss wrestling from January to April.
No.
Can I add another comparison in that I'm surprised isn't being made more? You talked about John Cena being shoved down our throats. We had Roman Reigns in a similar situation. Babyface Roman shoved down our throats. What about the moment when Roman is sitting there and the camera pans out and there's Paul Heyman sitting right next to him pulling the strings? I think that has as much power, maybe not as much power as this moment, but I think it's right up there.
Okay, question.
What's Roman expected to do at WrestleMania? We don't know yet, right?
Coming into last night, so before last night's events that occurred, the rumored thing online, and it was the biggest bummer for me, was Reigns, Rollins, Punk, triple threat.
Okay.
I like all three of those guys, but I don't like a triple threat match that's not for anything. Now, if that triple threat match happened on night one and the winner got Cody in night two, I get it. Okay. And then I understand that situation, why there's a triple threat. But now that I don't know, if that doesn't look like it's going to happen, like I don't know what Roman Reigns' match is. Is it Seth Rollins for the 2 curb stomps that he took on the steps and at ringside? Is that at Royal Rumble? Is that the match they're going for? Is it Punk and Logan Paul now? Where's Punk end up in all this? Like, that's a great question, Austin. Like, but going into last night, I think Reigns was lumped in with Punk and Rollins.
Is Reigns
Again, just haven't read anything, no clue.
No, you're fine.
Earlier you said
and then the 2, is he the one that you said they may still add another guy?
Ooh, Roman? That'd be
because he had the Cody, he's got the Rock.
Right? I mean, I don't know. But is there
a way for him to show up here?
I think excuse me. I think looking at how the Rumble ended and where we are now, I think there can still be, and Nick's going to hate me for saying this, I think there can still be an argument made for that triple threat with Punk, Rollins, and Roman, and here's why. At the end of the Chamber match, Rollins gets eliminated and comes back and stomps the crap out of Punk on the steel, on the metal part of the chamber. And
Cena sees the opportunity.
Yeah, he sees Cena. There was some foreshadowing there that nobody talked about. Cena just jumped right in and got the win as soon as Punk dropped, or as soon as Rollins dropped Punk. But there's such animosity there. And keep in mind, Austin, I don't know if you remember this or if you paid attention to this, but coming out of Survivor Series, Paul Heyman owes Punk a favor.
I do remember that.
And
at the end of the cage,
right. We never even talked about that last night.
That's the small stuff. That's the small stuff that they planted that could come back.
Okay, I didn't remember that, but I do now.
That was my when last night before the show, I said my biggest thing I'm excited for tonight is I want to see if this Punk favor from Heyman pays off. And
I think we lost Nick there for a second.
And I can't wait to see that unfold. I can't wait to see how that unfolds, this Punk favor from Heyman. That's what I'm excited for.
Does Punk ask Heyman to tell Roman to step aside? Roman coming back to get to Rollins for the 2 stomps. Does Punk ask Heyman to tell Roman to step aside and let him handle Punk handle Rollins on his own?
I've always looked at the favor as somehow Punk backdoors his way into a main event at Mania. and Heyman helps him get there. But I don't know how we get there. I'm excited to see, though. I can't wait. That's what I'm looking forward to next. Of course, after Monday night and seeing what they did with Cena. Did you happen to see, Austin? I know CZ did, the post Elimination Chamber press conference.
No, was it good? I honestly, everything else is just, to me, on my social media has drowned it out. The Cena turns taking all the oxygen in the room.
Cena showed up.
Okay.
He walks in. He sits down. There's a microphone in front of him on a tripod, and he like messes with it. He picks up the microphone, sits back in the chair, goes like this, and then drops the mic and walks out of the room.
Perfect.
It was beautiful. Like, man, this is great. Like, we're always told, just give it time, stuff will happen. And it does. It really does. Like, this one is going to be one like, okay, everybody, from I know we're a day removed. I know maybe we're being prisoners of the moment of sorts, but I don't think so with this memory. Like, everybody from now on, when you say Elimination Chamber 25, everybody's going to know that was the night Cena turned. And I just think, like, it's so cool to have experienced that with it not being a major show.
Zach just said, with the mic drop, do you think he comes out and does that again? Like, okay, let's say you go with that. He came out and he told us everything for so long, and we didn't want to hear it. We were tired of it. So now we wanted him to turn. We wanted him to do whatever. Now he's not going to talk to us like he used to. We didn't want it when we had it. Why all of a sudden do we deserve it now? I don't know. That's interesting, Zach. I don't know. He could. I think, again, slow burn. Less is more. Milk it, milk. This is new. This is fresh. It doesn't just end in 7 weeks. It keeps going and going and going. Okay, is Brock Lesnar gone? Is he?
I don't think he's a part of anything.
Right.
Because he had been mentioned in the most recent allegations
of
what's going on.
But
I think he's off the table, Austin. I think he's off the table.
So to me, that could be a Paul Heyman thing. Who knows? I think with that allegation thing, it's kind of seemed in the last couple of weeks like it seems like it's cleared. Whether it's morally right, it seems like legally it's okay.
And maybe if Lesnar's in the wings waiting to make a surprise appearance, they're pushing it off as long as they can to. Yes. Yep. I get that.
I don't see him being gone forever. Vegas is huge. I have no idea how their ticket sales are going. I'm sure they're so much better than mine will ever be. But to me, I loved him. And, obviously you've got entertainers and you've got personal people, and sometimes they line up and sometimes they don't, and it's just the way the cookie crumbles. But I'd love to see Brock back. Two guys we haven't talked about, which is fine by me because I can't stand them together, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. That's when I decided I was going to go to bed pretty soon. And honestly, I think that match was good. I think that match was fine. I think it was whatever, but I've just seen them so many times, and it's just tough for me. I love watching them individually. They're fine. We've been talking now for almost 50 minutes, and we haven't mentioned them. I think to me that match kind of got lost. I was surprised with how barbaric and heinous some of the stuff was. There's no blood, right?
Yeah.
Very end, Sammy had a little cut up here, but that was it. And it wasn't a lot. It wasn't over the top. So they did a really good job of keeping it clean, so to say.
I think that when you have an unsanctioned match and Liv Morgan just looks like she got totally destroyed, like, Liv looks brutal in the photos I'm seeing today. Yeah. And so then they tell the story of Sammy and Kevin Owens for the bajillionth time. I mean, they've got to look horrible too, right? I mean, they can't. And I thought that was a good ending. I like that ending. Afterwards, where they came running out, and the security was all. I thought that was good. I don't know, but I did like the small details. Then there was no WWE logo on the corner turnbuckle pads. The refs looked a little bit different. The lighting was a little bit different.
The lighting was awesome. They really did. They nailed that, I thought.
So they isolated the ring with the graphics.
They isolated the ref. It was a different feel. And then you had the sponsor on the LED and the WWE logo on that LED ringside guardrail. Which is fine because people are paying big money to be there. It had a different feel. I was surprised that there wasn't any blood. I'm not a blood guy, so it's fine. But there's been blood between them before, so I figured that this is sure to get that. They had the barbed wire chair.
Yes.
I thought there would have been something with that.
I forget the finish. But the finish was relatively quick, wasn't it? I mean, it was there was a big spot, but the finish, in a sense, wasn't a massive moment.
It was Kevin. Right? It was Kevin like pinning a lifeless Sami Zayn after he essentially choked him out. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So
I don't know that you were going to wow me with that just because I've been wowed so many times and I'm just kind of over it. I really hope it's over between them. It won't be because it just seems like the story that I jokingly said by the end of the year they're going to be tag champs.
So, well, I was going to say, coming out of that match, I think we see the path for KO at WrestleMania. We haven't mentioned that yet, and we will here in a second. What did you think of the Randy Orton, comeback? And I also want you to answer or think about what is Sami Zayn's path now for WrestleMania coming out of that match.
I love Randy Orton. He is so good. And when you think of John Cena calling it quits this year, right? I mean, Orton's right there with him as far as time-wise. Orton's just kind of always been there. So to me, I'm fine with that. I like Orton coming back.
He needs to be on a Mania card. He does. He needs to be there.
I've always felt like he's a top
guy that you just don't really think about. He's been good. He's been at the top. To me, he's like a really high mid card, really low main event guy. And I hate that because God, he looks like $1 million. His presence is phenomenal. To me, Kevin Owens is kind of the same. I don't know. I'm not degrading anybody because two people at the top of the industry, but I just don't feel like Orton and Cena are the same. I think Orton is. I think Cena is massive, and they've both been there for like the Orton return is a big deal, but I think it just got forgot about for 54 minutes,
I like a word you used earlier, talking about your social media feed, and it drowned out.
Yeah.
Big Cargill return, Bianca's win, Randy Orton's return, all of them were drowned out by what happened at the end of the show. Nobody's going to remember those.
And remember the same thing kind of happened to Orton when he came back at Survivor Series in Chicago when
CM Punk. Yes.
Yeah. So this just feels again like
you get kind of neutered. Like you do some really good stuff and you work really hard to have this moment, and right away it's not big. And this time of year, big is happening everywhere, so everything's going to play out just fine. Everything will be okay. But Orton, I just feel like always had so much more potential than we saw.
Yes.
Yeah, I do too. And you know what? The injury bug really got a hold of him a few times, where he was out for months.
Over a year at one point, wasn't he?
Missed some probably collective years throughout the time with his injuries. But Yeah, he's there with Cena, but Cena will always be seen as above him, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, John Cena's, a Mount Rushmore guy for a lot of people, so that's not putting Randy Orton in bad company. But yeah, it just seemed he kind of got overshadowed with what happened just, like you said, 54 minutes later. I want to ask you, because I got a wrestling podcast and I want to ask somebody a wrestling question, but what is Gunther's path coming out of Mania if Jay wins?
Gunther's the man.
I know. He's my favorite, dude. He's my favorite. And I'm going to take some heat for this, but I have nothing against Jey Uso. I have nothing, like what he's done organically, the crowd, the numbers don't lie. He's putting up merch sales. The crowd loves him. I don't hate Jey Uso, but I just don't know if he's on the level of Gunther to take Gunther out, in my opinion, when you look at body of work.
Yeah.
No, not feeling it. I saw Walter and PCO at a Revolver show at the Valor Ballroom on about Halloween weekend, maybe half a dozen years ago. Fantastic, hard-hitting match. Walter looks so much different than Gunther now. Total body transformation, looks like a beast. And he looked amazing then.
Yes,
looks
I agree.
like a beast now. I saw a picture of what's the guy with Otis? The
Tozawa.
Kira Tozawa.
Yeah, I saw a picture of Tozawa and Walter from back in the day.
And the transformation both of those guys have made is just wild to me. Just good for both of them. Anything's possible. God, I love Gunther. I think he's phenomenal. I like Ludwig. I like him. I was surprised that they kind of split the other two guys up. I was surprised that the one guy got released about 2 weeks ago. Not really. I mean, we hadn't been featured for a while, but I thought that was a really good thing. Yeah, Gunther wasn't even on it last night, was he?
He wasn't on the Royal Rumble either. And
so that tells you how they feel.
Well, I know, and people are complaining about, his run's been dismal. It's like, it's not his fault. He's went out there and had fantastic matches during this run. It just seems like they just haven't focused anything on his title run.
Well, everybody's a champion. Everybody gets a trophy. We haven't seen an Intercontinental champion. We haven't. I mean, God, we have women's tag team champions. We've got this women's Intercontinental champion. We've got so many championships now that you're not going to see everybody.
But this is your world heavyweight champion. This is your guy on Monday nights.
You ought to see the guy. You ought to see
him.
The top. So, I mean, it makes the Rumble to me
feel a little lackluster if at the Rumble Gunther wasn't on it. Gunther wasn't featured. If the next one, neither one of them are, well, we just watched the whole Rumble to see Jay, right? I mean, I know you can only do so much, and they did a lot. And it's whatever. But that would be the argument for shorter matches and more matches, for sure. Instead of 4 matches that are longer and you tell longer stories. I'm not a big Jey Uso fan. My son would hit me right now if he were still here because he likes him. I'm happy for my son because he's got a bunch of that merchandise that you're talking about selling. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't. That's too bad. Jey Uso can't win, right?
There's no way.
I hope not. And it's not. But they want that big moment is what they want. And it's too bad. And I hope Gunther bounces back and is in a title picture quick or is in a good program. Because I don't think he's done anything wrong. I just think it's just been a bad run with everything else that's going on. Like he hasn't flubbed up. He hasn't pissed off anybody backstage that I've read about or heard about.
You don't read anything about him.
You don't hear anything about him because he's a well-respected worker that shows up and respects the business and isn't going to be a problem. So like, it's almost like Bret Hart to a degree. Like, you weren't going to hear those things about Bret Hart either, but Bret Hart had interesting runs and a lot of stuff going on, but just it doesn't seem like there's a lot of buzz around his current title reign, and it's a shame. And I'm glad you brought up Walter. I've been on an NXT UK deep dive, watching all the old stuff. I wanted to see his debut and his early stuff, and even though he was a bit heavier then, he still went in the ring. He still looked great. He still was convincing. Like, he just has a presence to him. I love that. I just love that he does everything he does in the ring has a reason. There's no move out there just to do a move. Like, his rhythm in the ring, what he does in the ring, I love him. Yeah, I hope he doesn't drop it.
He feels very Damian Priest-like, where has a championship for a while. And we saw Elimination Chamber, I think yesterday, we saw the graphic, or maybe it was Friday night. We see the graphic for it. And I just said, God, one of these guys just does not belong. And Damian Priest seems so much lower than everybody. To me. And you have Logan Paul and stuff in there who's here 4 times a year, whatever it is. But I feel like Gunther and Damian Priest, for as much as they have kind of tried to propel them, it's just not there. It's just not, you get that vibe that if they're not on the Rumble, if they're not on the Elimination Chamber, it's just not a big deal. And that's crazy to me because the Rumble winner is taking that match, but it's going to take second place to Cena.
Absolutely.
Right.
And here's my thing. This will be if Jay walks away with the title, and if he does, I see Gunther getting it back in his rematch. But in my opinion, if Jay walks away with the title, this will be the second year in a row where I felt that Gunther is losing a title to the wrong person. And that's no disrespect. Last year it was Sami Zayn taking the Intercontinental Championship off of him. No disrespect to Sami. No disrespect to Jay. They're not the people to end Gunther's title runs, in my opinion.
What's Jimmy Uso doing? Anything?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I have not seen an episode of SmackDown probably in a couple weeks. I read what goes on, but yeah, what's going on with him? Then that's another thing. We've got 7, less than 7 weeks now to WrestleMania. There's not a show between now and then. I don't think there's even a Saturday night's main event. So they got 7 weeks of programming, no PLE. So this is kind of interesting to see, how much of the card we get, earlier rather than later.
All right. So how many matches do they have each night approximately every year for 2 nights? They have 7 or 8.
You know what? I want to think it was 7 and 7.
That's what I'm thinking.
Last year. Yeah. I'm going to look right now while you guys discuss. I think it's 7 and 7, to be honest with you.
So we've got to come up with 14 matches, and right now we're at about 4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing, but we've got. Well, I don't know. Yeah, we've got 4 with the championships, men and women, right? 2 men's, 2 women's, and then we'd have the Punk and Rollins. There's 5.
Yeah, they had 7 and 7 last year at 40. Let me look at 39. Do you have? You got Braun Breaker's going to have a match, right?
I heard that was like a big man.
I did too.
Match.
That's going to be a multiple person match.
It's got to be. But God, he looks so amazing.
God, he's talented.
Yes.
WrestleMania 39 was 8 and 7.
Okay. So
14 to 15, and we're at 5 that we can think of off the top of our head.
6 if you count Orton and KO.
All right. So what's
I can
the
add a
gimmick
possible.
match?
What's that?
What's the celebrity attraction? Where's our Snoop Dogg, or where's our
Jackass guys,
or what's
it's got to be that guy with the Rock, doesn't
Travis
it?
Scott will be that guy.
Scott?
Will probably be there along for the ride. I don't know who the celebrity will be. I guess Logan Paul's going to be in a match, right?
Yeah, I'd say he probably maybe that Intercontinental Scramble. Is he have a big MMA fight or big boxing fight coming up? Is that before or after?
It's like in June.
Okay.
June or July. I think he's boxing his brother.
And Mike Tyson's involved with WWE this year. He's doing the meet and greet stuff at the WWE World. So I would assume they'd put him on camera somewhere. It's Vegas and
for sure. Did we get a match? Did you guys mention the Roman Reigns Rollins Punk thing? I was looking up the things. Did you mention that? Okay.
It surprised me yesterday when they were talking about 14 or 15 new events. It's rumored that SmackDown will be in Des Moines on the 2nd. They announced dates before and after that, but not that. I've heard that TKO's coming to Des Moines for a weekend of SmackDown, bull riding, and UFC. So I would assume that would be announced here pretty soon. But that May 2nd, that's just a couple weeks after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's 9 weeks away. It's a 60 days away.
And Backlash hasn't even been announced yet. I went to WrestleMania to click on next pay-per-view in the chronological order online, and there's no Backlash date yet.
We know where Backlash is going to be.
We don't even know where Backlash is yet.
No, we know where it's going to be.
It's Mexico or something, right?
It is. You're right. We do know it's in Mexico. We just don't have a date, which I find kind of odd.
Yeah.
No, it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, whether you're on the independents, whether you're in mainstream. Now, honestly, AEW, what happened to those guys? We're talking TNA so much more than we are AEW. TNA is looking phenomenal. The cross branding that they're doing, gosh, it propels them, bringing up Jordan Grace, bringing up Believe in Joe Hendry, different people. TNA seems like the place to be right now. It seems like the precursor for NXT. NXT seems good. This is just such a brutal situation, I think, self-induced, but you think Gunther's an afterthought. AEW is an afterthought. They get lost for the next 7 weeks at this rate. TNA's whooping them.
Also, I'm glad you mentioned AEW because I want to pick your brain as a promoter. This is something Nick and I have talked about. We mentioned Gunther not being featured as one of the two main champions in WWE. What are your thoughts on the AEW championship belt itself being off camera for as many weeks as it has? Allegedly, it's in Moxley's briefcase, but you do not see it at all.
Well, AEW has been off TV for me for years. I don't know anything that's happening there. I can't watch it. I went to a live event. It was a Dynamite in Des Moines, and actually, I enjoyed myself. But I didn't know who most of the guys were. Right. I missed out. Collision came to Cedar Rapids, and my son went with a buddy, and they had a good time. But everybody that was advertised, nobody that was advertised on the poster was actually there. My son didn't know any of them. To have that much money and to have that much exposure per week, and it's just crazy to me that you don't think about them. To see a lot of these people that took the big money to go there a handful of years ago, and now they're begging to come back because AEW is where you go to let your career die. It feels like, I mean, there's nothing making me want to watch that, and it's sad because there's a lot of talent there. But this time of year, especially, WWE's eating your lunch every day, and now if NXT's eating your lunch and TNA's eating your lunch, what do you do? And honestly, as far as the live event thing goes, we went to Wells Fargo Arena. I don't know an actual number here, but I'm gonna say that arena seats 15,000, and there were probably between 3,000 and 4,000 in that giant arena. Collision in Cedar Rapids, that arena holds 4,000 to 5,000, and they probably had 4,000 there. So the optics and the vibe from everybody I heard in Cedar Rapids was phenomenal. Instead, they go to these big arenas. It was hard to get a chant going or to have a chant carry on very long at Dynamite because you're just 3,000 people, 4,000 people in a 15,000 seat arena. It's tough. It's really tough. So if your stories aren't good, it's even tougher. If Iowa, if a rural market, if a sea town doesn't know who your people are, or if the people that are at Cedar Rapids, they're expecting to see Jericho, they're expecting to see some of these names, so they come out and then they don't know anybody.
Kind of sucks the air out of the room, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It does. And that's a tough one to me. I'm not even mad. I'm not even disappointed. It's like they just don't even exist. And that is a wild thing because I would say they have positioned themselves as WWE's competitor, and there's no way. There's just no way. Do you guys think I'm wrong or crazy or is that too harsh?
No, Austin, I'm letting you talk because I feel the exact same way. I know the Wizard feels the exact same way, but I try not to come on here. I'm not mad at you. I'm glad you said it because it's other people saying it that validifies why I don't rail on it on here. I'd be saying the same things week after week after week.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a pay-per-view coming up next week. That's next week's show that CZ and I are doing. We're going to be talking about their show. They've put together a really good card. There's a couple good storylines going into it, but it just seems to me it's just fantasy booking done without thinking. And there's a couple good stories going on. There's a couple good things going on. I won't, the stuff going on with Mariah May and Tony Storm has been really good. I'll give them credit there, but it just seems like there's a lack of leadership over there, a lack of directions of each shows, and it's apples to oranges between the two, in my opinion. So I'm glad you said that stuff because I feel myself, CZ, a lot of people feel the exact same way.
I am kind of on my own island, and I love it here. But if you put Mariah May, I've never heard that name before. You just said it. If you put her and two other girls in front of me, I would not know which one she was. I could get Tony Storm. I saw her. I know who she is. But I've never heard that name before.
And she is relatively new to America.
She's relatively new to America. She's been here for a little while. Had her success and stardom over in Japan. But her and Tony Storm are in the midst of this great angle, and they've put on good stuff. So I mean, I'll give AEW credit there. And they have some tremendous talent. I'm not taking away from their talent. They've got tremendous talent, but it just seems like there's not enough guidance over there. That's what I'll call it. There's not enough guidance they've got all these people with experience on their payroll, but they're not going to them. And, there's no influence there from the right people, in my opinion.
Everybody's got great talent. By the time you get a national TV deal, by the time you're doing arenas, you're doing something right. But I don't even know how you salvage it. It just seems like such a bad vibe. Punk came out of that situation looking like $1 million.
Yes.
And Cody came out of that looking like $1 million. And who did they had a Ricky Starks recently? Am I right?
He changed his name, but the former Ricky Starks now on NXT.
And Ethan
Page, Sean Spears. So we're going to be getting Rusev and Alistair, Malachi, whatever you want to call him, Black back. I mean,
and some of those guys are going to be your WrestleMania returns. Some of those guys are going to be your WrestleMania guest.
Sure.
I'm just guessing. I haven't read anything. But, I mean, when Ricky Starks came to NXT or TNA or wherever he just came to, it was on my social media feed. Yeah, that's a big thing. Because, again, I'm on my own little secluded island. But I never saw anything Ricky Starks ever before. Anytime he would pop up, it was, hey, Ricky Starks came with Cody backstage at a WWE thing. Mm-hmm. I mean,
simple, stupid stuff like that is getting
The Ricky Starks publicity, not the greatness that he was or wasn't doing at AEW.
Right.
I mean, how is that even happening when you have the
Type of funding and exposure weekly, multiple times that you do?
You're not using that funding right. 100%. I'm with Nick. I don't want to rail on AEW. I don't want to badmouth them or downplay them, but I have gone on record as saying that they need someone holding the reins. It's like the inmates are running the asylum over there.
Did I read something recently where
The Young Bucks won like Tag Team of the Year or something? Am I crazy? I feel like I saw.
Wrestling Observer newsletter, of course, dude. He's in their back pocket.
Yeah, but how many matches did they have?
I don't even know. But that is so wild to me.
I know.
Because I don't even know how that I mean,
It just seems it just seems like a good old boys club. And for a long time, people could say that about WWE. There was a time when TNA or Impact was off the map. I mean, wrestling is ups and downs and all arounds. Right now, personally, I'm having a great time in wrestling. The CEW with my rentals, it's great. My life is good with wrestling. A couple years from now, for whatever reason, it probably won't be. And some other aspect of my wrestling life will be good that's not so good right now. I mean, it's crazy how it goes up and down. But I don't know. It's so hard for me. I don't even know. I haven't watched TNA either. Is AEW? Are they on? Are they on TNT still?
Mm-hmm.
AEW is on TBS and TNT with Collision with Dynamite and Collision. TNA is on Access TV. I don't have that.
Yeah.
What I do have, though, the Roku channel has a TNA channel 24/7, and they'll throw that stuff up like a week later. So, like, that's my connection to TNA. I catch their stuff like a week later. Then they've always got old pay-per-views up. But the TNA NXT thing seems to be working out great right now. They've got a stacked card, not this coming week, but the week after. They're calling it WWE Roadblock. And it's pretty loaded right now. Like Hardy's against Fraxium, Obafemi versus Moose. There's a few other, pretty good matches on the card as well. So that's exciting. I love NXT. So I try to brag about it as much as I can. To me, it's my favorite show to watch during the week. It's 2 hours. It's jam-packed full. Yes, it's junior high level acting at times with the backstage stuff. I find that funny and dig it. And then the rest of the show's good. They're putting, they're developing some good guys for the future, good guys and gals. And it's the most loaded women's roster in all of wrestling, in my opinion. So
speaking of women's wrestling, there's a movie that just came out, right? Did it premiere?
Women's wrestling.
I think it's premiering Queen of the Ring about Mildred Burke.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the deal with that?
When's that out? When is it? Did it just come out this last week, or
I think it comes out March 7th? I think like they're doing all the premieres or whatever in the big towns, but I think March 7th it comes out.
Is that going to
be a significant theatrical release or select theaters, or what kind of build does that thing have?
Because I've been seeing it on my social media. I've never seen it.
Well, you mentioned AEW, and I came across a tweet the other day, and it's a picture of the gal who plays Mildred Burke. Emily Rickards is her name. Emily Rickards. Jim Cornette, who is got a role as like a booker or a part of the NWA in the movie, and Camille Brickhouse, who is one of the wrestlers in the movie. I think probably for the big, the climax, of the last scene or whatever in the movie. She's on your AEW roster, and there hasn't been one mention of that movie on their shows. Nothing. It's like, how do you not talk about that on your shows or on your social media? You've got a wrestler that's going to be in a movie about what else? Women's wrestling, and you're not even pubbing it What's wrong with you? Sorry, I wasn't yelling at you guys, I promise.
You just can't fix stupid, I guess.
I mean, how much you get one shot every 5 years of a mainstream wrestling movie coming out. They're on your roster here. Sounds good. Cornette. I love Jim Cornette. Cornette's been off the grid for a long time. I think a lot of that'll be popular just because they want to see Cornette. People love Cornette. People hate Cornette. People will tune in just to see that. I'm going to. I'm excited to see it because I love it anytime wrestling, and this seems like it's treated seriously. It's not a puff piece.
It looks like it's shot very well. Yes, they put a lot of, when I seen Jim Cornette was a part of it, and I know Jim Cornette's a very, very polarizing figure. You either like him or hate him. I love listening to his shows, not because of his rants. I just love hearing the history of stuff.
Yeah,
because that guy was a part of so much and knew about so much. He's a fan, of course. That's how he got in the business, but I just like hearing his stories, his history and stories and stuff. So when I knew he was going to be a part of it, I knew it was going to be a big deal, not cheesy, not stupid, because he wouldn't do it if it was not going to benefit wrestling.
And you mentioned how there's an AEW talent in the movie, and we're talking about AEW TNA. I have access to watch TNA Impact's the weekly program. They are advertising that movie every single break. And AEW is doing absolutely nothing with it.
I don't know. That's just one thing to me that I saw this past week about that. I'm like, yeah, that person made a good point. I know social media is not the end all be all, but I had to agree with that tweet because they're not pushing it, and it's like,
yeah, but social media kind of is because
I know
it's free. Wrestling fans,
again, wrestling fans, I'm going to say a lot of them may not have a smartphone, and rural communities specifically, I can attest to this. Our fans, some of them may not have a smartphone. Some of them may not have internet. So cable television is not for everybody. You've got Roku, which is available at Walmart, major retailer, cheap TVs. That's all we've got. We've got a bunch of Roku TVs. So now I can watch TNA a week later where I couldn't watch AEW. Depending on, and in my rural atmosphere, this is a real thing. People, myself included, we don't know who the AEW guys are. We don't, it's just, I'd love to bring in a Danhausen to one of my shows. I would love to bring in some of the AEW guys that are available. Well, a lot of times they're booking on Saturdays, so you can't,
but I don't know. I'm going off the rails here.
I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because AEW came in and I was watching that religiously every week. I thought it was so good. I had my parents watching it. My parents thought it felt different. My parents thought it felt fresh. Something happened sometime somewhere. Don't watch it. Don't care. And that's just wild to me because.
What do you know when that moment was? Do you know when that moment was? Was it after the Punk stuff went down? Or was it before that? What do you think was the polarizing moment or the turning of the moment for them, in your opinion?
Well, we watched because
Punk came. That was a big deal when they got him.
Yep.
AEW to me at the beginning was so exciting because it was the indies.
Yep.
It was an opportunity for my peers, the people that I've worked with, to have a spotlight. And at some point it became, and I get it, but at some point it became like WWE's Castaways came there, which was the same thing you could say about January 4th, 2010, when TNA or Impact went head to head on Mondays with WWE, and they have Val Venus and Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff. And it's not that people didn't like those guys. It's just they loved the X Division and they loved those other things that made TNA or Impact special. And instead they got Chief Morley. Well, this feels the same when you've got
Rusev getting thrown into. I was watching the show, and it's tough because pandemic era was not good for anybody. But some of the stuff that they were doing during that time, having people thrown into arcade games and arcade games dumped on them, it just really was so dumb to me, and I just couldn't do it. It's tough because there's no crowd. It's tough because there's no atmosphere. It's even worse when it's just stupid. It makes me feel embarrassed sometimes to say I'm a wrestling fan, and I hate that feeling because I am so proud to be a wrestling fan. And a lot of times it just seems like it kind of insults my people think, oh yeah, that's what he gets into. AEW just feels that way to me. So I don't know. I'm just taking your word for it, but the championship has been in a bag.
In a briefcase.
Bag and then a briefcase, yeah, for months.
Oh, I can't wait to see the briefcase open, and then the belt's
Not there.
Yeah.
And the briefcase has been beaten and battered in a match, but we've never, it hasn't been opened.
Yeah, well, it'll be open and it'll be gone or something, which that'll be just
fine or whatever. But I don't know. I wish him luck because I do have some friends that are working with him. I've got some people I've idolized working for him. I think it's great that people have those opportunities. I just want to see everybody be successful, and there is no better platform than national television exposure, and nobody talks about them. When I say, who do you want to see at Bridge City Slam, nobody says anything about AEW guys. They do a little bit, but it's usually like, we want to see Jon Moxley. Well, that's the WWE kickback. People aren't saying they want to see Darby Allin. And that's just crazy to me because TNA built Alex Shelley and they built an AJ Styles. And I'm just not feeling, I don't really feel that AEW built the Young Bucks, right? I feel like they were
well beyond themselves before.
Yeah.
They were major before AEW. People knew who they were.
Yeah. So anyways, it's WrestleMania
season. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. I hope that everybody's product gets better, because if it doesn't, then you're just going to be left in the dust. And I think my lesson for the weekend, it's been a big week for me personally. I had a great week and learned some things. But the most important is, don't go to sleep early.
Don't go to, you say we're old heads. You started saying you're old heads. It's 8:01,
and I'm like taking my glasses off and rubbing my eyes. I drive a school bus.
I'm getting up early in the morning to take kids to and from school all week.
But this is a big time of the year, man. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. Monday Night Raw is going to be amazing tomorrow. It's got to be. SmackDown's going to be, can't miss the next 7 weeks. And it felt good to me, honestly, to miss that, because now I think I will stay up for the next month. I will try to convince my son to stay up a little later, because this is where wrestling fans become addicts. This is a really good time to be a wrestling fan. Not that watching the third week of July is a bad time, but it kind of is. This is when the real deal is.
Yep.
So you're going to see a lot of crazy things happen. You're going to see people go down with injuries. You're going to see championships change. You're going to see cards subject to change. You're going to see so many things happen in the next 7 weeks that you might regret going to sleep early. So something like this is nice, because you've told me some things that I missed yesterday when I did watch it. The rest of it this morning, I missed a little bit of it. But yeah, no, it's a good time. I think Triple H is doing a fantastic job. I'm excited for the Hall of Fame. I've always respected Triple H. I think it's a really neat thing that honestly, he kind of came in as an outsider. He came in through Killer Kowalski. Kowalski was respected. He came up the right way. We love to hate him. Late 90s, early 2000s. The first episode of
Raw that I ever watched, he locked the Rock
in a casket, beat it up with a sledgehammer. They opened up the casket. Rock was all bloodied. And now these two guys are at the top of the industry. Sure, he married Stephanie. Sure, that was he was now going to be with us for a very long time. But I think he would have been regardless. He was so good. He was so talented. I'm so happy that he's rocking and rolling with him. Great headliner for the Hall of Fame. I'm kind of excited to see maybe Axe and Smash get a nod.
Yes.
Yes.
I would love to see Victoria get a nod. She signed a Legends deal 6 months ago. She was in the audience here recently. I've heard that they might change the format up. I've read where they might change the format up to have the Hall of Fame be a separate event. They did have it after SmackDown. That was kind of tough previously because they do the live SmackDown and then they have to change it up and then have the Hall of Fame. So it'd be nice if the Hall of Fame was a standalone, but that weekend is so busy. That weekend is just, what are you going to do? But my wife and I, we were wanting to take our son out and do a family trip to Las Vegas. We love Las Vegas. Typically it's not a family friendly atmosphere, and we kind of like that about Vegas. We were looking into it. Tickets are just a little too much for us, so we're probably going to settle on SmackDown when it shows up in May, assuming it does, like we've heard about. But yeah, WrestleMania 2 nights, that's crazy to me. I'd love to go to SummerSlam when it's in Minneapolis, or go to one of these 2-night shows and just kind of get the vibe. I would love to go to that WWE World and experience it, see what it's like to have all that merchandise. I went to WrestleMania 30 and the fan access store was huge. I loved it. You could spend so much money in a short amount of time, but that's a
neat experience to have. It was crazy to me because last year they were signing football helmets. And just they were signing baseballs, they were signing golf balls. I just can't imagine being such an in-demand
event to where you could sell a signed EO
Sky football helmet. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
25 years ago, it wouldn't even been you've been like, what are they doing that for?
Right. It's amazing. WWE is phenomenal that when they teamed up with Fanatics, the game just changed. And now they have the branding with Topps. They have the card out there, Beckett, I think, is involved. Beckett. I think I got that wrong. Anyways, the trading cards is a big thing, and I don't know about you guys, but growing up, we've all had cards. We've all opened a pack, and they're making that cool again.
Yep.
Everything's digital now. Everything you don't touch, you don't feel. So cards are neat because you have that experience of opening it up. I don't know if you saw this last week, but they had a bunch of like pack war nights where different card shops you could actually go, and like the Miz was there and he pulled a Rock autograph card.
Yep.
Charlotte was somewhere. That's pretty neat. I love those
on-site in-demand events, those weird niche things. Growing up, I would go see half a dozen superstars at Disc Replay in the Quad Cities, or I'd go to the mall and we'd see celebrities in the Quad Cities.
Sure.
We go to a Walmart and Trish and Jericho would be signing an autograph before a show. I like that. We kind of got away from that. I don't know. You guys might remember back in the day, they would send a wrestler to the on sale at the arena box office. So
I remember that.
Yeah. You could go to the Mark of the Quad Cities and
meet the Godfather, because he'd be selling tickets. The Road Dogg would be there selling tickets. I like seeing that partnership with Cricket. Anytime you can get out into the community, I think that's great. And those are free events usually. The WWE World, that's, of course, they're charging for everything, but it's just neat. The bigger spectacle you can make things. And I think in a sense, they stole that from the indies. Guys like me, guys bigger than me, doing these big wrestling legends fan fest. And it used to just be on the East Coast or down in Florida. Well, now it seems like every state there's a promoter that stepped up to do that. And so now WWE's like, oh, okay, so we've already got Duggan and Jake and all these people on Legends deals. Okay, we're going to bring them. We're going to have them do WWE World before Elimination Chamber, before Rumble, before whatever. And they just take over the town. It's incredible. So I wish we could have went to Vegas. We'd love to go see something at the Spear.
That'd be cool too.
Yeah, so... Anyways, might have to settle for SummerSlam next year.
Right.
And that's okay.
One last question I have for you, Austin, before we let you go here. And we want to thank you for our time. Of course, we're Card Subject Change podcast by the fan for the fan. Powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Thank you so much for listening and sticking around here with us. We're having a great time just chatting wrestling. Where are we on Bridge City Slam preps, and when do those announcements start coming out?
I have so much work to do. I love that event.
The reality is it takes so much out of me, and it feels like last year just ended. I know it didn't. This month, there's going to be a lot happening this month. Personally, I haven't booked anybody yet. I have some people in mind that I want to reach out to. Don't really want to say it right now because
for sure.
The worst part about it is
with the rise of these conventions, it's not just a wrestling convention, it's a Comic-Con now. They're coming to hockey games, and they always used to go to like a hockey game or a baseball game or whatever, but now, like, it would be a really big deal to have
Honky Tonk Man at a Bridge City Slam, but he just came to a random Comic-Con, and next weekend is Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler at a random Comic-Con, and a couple months later, it's Buff Bagwell and the Headbangers at a car show, and this is all happening, and this is all good stuff, but now you have to figure out a way to stand out. Yesterday, so Santino Morello was a guy that I was interested in, and yesterday I saw he's announced for the Revolver show in Des Moines coming up. So it's tough because you have to figure out something that makes you different than everybody else, and something that fits your budget, something that your fans haven't already seen before. I personally loved last year bringing in Jordan Grace. I thought that was a major shift in ideology for me. To me, it was always WWE this, WWE that. And so bringing in somebody from TNA might be something, or multiple people from TNA, something I look into. I run a high risk of cancellation because they're running pay-per-views and different stuff on Saturdays. So I hate that. You can't really get the AEW guys because they can be pulled days before. So I would say my target this year would be probably bigger stars on the independent scene right now, and TNA guys or gals. I'm really impressed with what they're doing, and last year was the first year that I felt the fans kind of shift away from that 80s WWF star. Typically that has been a really big deal for us. Not that it was a bad thing, but Jake was the first guy that fans didn't necessarily get excited about from that era. At least when it came to investing.
So that, there's some guys from that 80s era that I would like that I haven't, maybe a Duggan or a Steamboat. The 80s era guys, it's a different fan base now. Those guys have been around and doing their thing.
And it's tough to be able to afford them. Sometimes they have to travel with
their wife or a manager. I'd love to have Slaughter. That's its own story. Probably won't. But he's the man. He's so good with fans. I would love to have him. 90s guys are kind of tough. A lot of them are tied up behind the scenes in different companies now, or we've had them. I think Mick Foley would be a lot of fun. I think Kane would be a lot of fun. Scotty Too Hottie and Al Snow were two guys that I did a lot of work with 15 years ago. I'd like to bring both of them back. They both have kind of had a resurgence in their career. Scotty's now got a son that's wrestling. Al, of course, is doing great in whatever he does. What I noticed last year was the fandom shifted away from the 80s and 90s guys, and people like that oddity 2010, early 2000s, 2010 Snitsky, the Boogeyman. And that makes sense because those kids from that era are now 25 years old or now 30 years old. So a time period that we might have thought wasn't as good as the time period, the 80s and 90s. Now that's kind of cool. So I'm seeing some of those 2010s guys looking more appealing, the girls looking more appealing. I could see a shift to a Dolph Ziggler, a shift to a Cardona, again, a shift to a Tori Wilson type of thing.
Nobody's booked yet, but
I feel like that's kind of the popular ask right now, is that time frame. Of course, everybody wants me to bring in Stone Cold and The Undertaker.
Right.
I love it because so do I. But
It's fun. It's tricky. It's a beast. Last year was the first year that I truly felt that it got too big for me. I really think the right size show is 6 celebrities. That seemed very manageable. That seemed very doable. Last year, I think we had 12, and I think we handled it very well. But just the show, it gets so big, and you always hope that it gets big, but then I'm pretty insulated with the same crew, with the same people that I trust, and I have been for so long. It's hard to add new people into your circle, and I have to. I absolutely have to. So that's a learning curve that I've got to figure out. But no, Bridge City Slam the next month, it's going to be big. I got to work on my income taxes. I got a big appointment with that on Tuesday. It absolutely sucks. I hate it. I have an archaic way of keeping records, and it works, but it's not fun. It's boring. I was supposed to do it today, but I decided I wasn't going to. And
well, we better not keep you from that then.
Oh, you should. You definitely should. Yeah. I want to talk to you until I get really tired, which is coming up here. But no, it's all good. Bridge City Slam, it's a good one. I'll tell you something that I've just closed with this. Bridge City Slams are baby. Bridge City Slams numero uno. That's a big one. One of the things I've been building up to for the last year and a half is these Mall Madness shows. Mall Madness in November 1st, we're going to have a big Mall Madness. It's going to resemble like a Bridge City Slam. We have an opportunity there to draw. Well, I shouldn't say it to draw, but we have an opportunity there to have 500, 600, 700 people at the mall. And so hopefully we can draw. But it's such a neat environment. It has so much potential. We're building it up slowly. It's a totally different beast to tackle that kind of an event at a mall, because it's open to the public until we do our event. So I would say this year, the thing that I'm most looking forward to, I know I can do Bridge City Slam. I know we can figure that out. I know that will live up to the expectations. I'm really hoping that Mall Madness throughout the year grows and grows and grows. And come November, we can do something really special there, and have 2 different big shows in 2 different communities. I'm getting older, and I'm having a lot of fun doing these rentals and traveling around. And I could see myself in the future doing fewer small shows and 2 or 3 big shows a year, and then doing focus on
a big show in the spring, a big show in the fall, fill it in with rentals and our usual 4th of July show and that type of thing. But the game is changing, and it's been really good to me as it's changed. But as far as CW is concerned, I think it probably needs to change with the times a little too. And I don't want to go smaller. I kind of want to go bigger. And so maybe less shows, but bigger shows.
Sure.
Well,
love you guys. Thank you very much.
No,
Absolutely.
Austin, thank you, man. We covered so much more. We didn't even, I was looking up at our show title. We just wrapped up episode 176 with Austin Bayliss, the head man with Central Empire Wrestling. And our episode was called CSTC FU. What did you think of that F-bomb from Cody?
That's a game changer.
I know.
Big time.
I think that there are right times
for big moments. That was a big moment. I didn't like Travis Scott. I probably could have done without the F-bomb, but I think the F-bomb made you pay attention. And I think Travis Scott could have not been there. Was he smoking weed again? Was he?
No, he was burning
what was he doing?
sage. He was burning sage.
Okay, sure he was. I'm
just going off what the commentary team was saying.
Yeah, that's you're right. You're right. I don't know.
It's fine. It added to the moment. It was different. I liked the entrance with the Rock's music and then the Travis Scott thing. I don't get him, but my son does. My son's 10, knew who he was, talked about him in Fortnite and the different. So it's just, hitting different generations and making it feel special. My son thought it was great that he was there. So that's perfect. WWE's very smart. But yeah, what was the question? What was the question again?
What you thought of the F-bomb?
What you thought of that moment when Cody's dropping the F-bomb there?
Yeah. Didn't see it coming.
And I think that made it special too. It would be interesting to see how in history that's played out, when they do the highlights and everything. Does that get included? Because it has to. It's got to. I mean, that moment in Cody's career is huge. So how does that transfer to Saturday night's main event on NBC? That story. How does it transfer to the different things? Netflix and Peacock and the PLEs, they have a little different playing ground. And I think that's okay. I think that's fine. It didn't bother me when my son heard it, but some people it might. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You can't make everybody happy. So, and it felt real. It felt real. It felt good. Again, I liked the Rock's belt. That's the date that Dusty died, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's fantastic.
I love real emotion, and that brought some out. And I love the blood on the belt, and the Mama Rhodes, same thing. The Rock is so good. When he I don't know how you guys feel, but when he came out and he put his arm up and you could see the goosebumps, I have those same goosebumps when he comes out. You just know that something
just thinking about him right now.
And knowing that moment, I get him. It just feels like there's something different about him. He does that. So excited to see him and Cena and maybe whoever else you think he might add to the group. I don't even know that you need to, but yeah.
Well, Austin, we could talk with you forever. This show could be endless talking about wrestling if we all weren't these old heads, like you said. But thank you so much for being a part of our reactions to the Elimination Chamber. This has been a fantastic show, in my opinion. And as always, you are welcome back anytime, my friend.
Awesome. Love you guys. Thanks for your time, and we'll talk to you soon, all right?
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. We'll see you down the road, Austin.
Yes, you will. Take care,
and
guys.
You can catch us midweek in the Kickout. And next week we'll be on Tuesday reviewing AEW Revolution. Can't wait for that. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production. For more great content, subscribe to For Frequency's Sake on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.